Fly Me to the Moon, directed by Greg Berlanti, whose previous big screen effort was 2018's Love, Simon, is a fictionalised tale of a marketing specialist played by Scarlett Johansson and her attempts to promote NASA's mission to put the first man on the moon. Along the way, she convinces fiscally conservative governors to support the mission, falls for a handsome NASA director, and even coordinates a fabricated moon landing in case the authentic landing fails. The cast is rounded out by Channing Tatum as the previously mentioned NASA director, Woody Harrelson as a shady G-man pulling strings behind the scenes, Ray Romano as a beleaguered NASA engineer, Jim Rash as a maverick though anonymous film director, and an ominous black cat who crosses paths with them all at one time or another. Director Greg Berlanti does a perfectly serviceable job behind the camera. His talents are most striking in scenes designed to inspire awe at NASA's feat of putting a man on the moon. Whether it's placing the camera low to the ground to highlight the enormity of the Saturn V rocket, or focusing on a trembling cup to emphasize the raw power of its engines, Berlanti wants you to appreciate the momentous achievement in science and engineering, and he succeeds. Where Berlanti stumbles, however, is in sacrificing logic for plot momentum. This is a film where top secret government plans are divulged in busy bars full of potential prying eyes, or preposterously quiet planes full of listening ears. This dilutes the seriousness of the moment, only to ask for that seriousness to be observed later when main characters are dragged into back rooms away from the public to discuss progress on said shady plans. The film also blatantly states that it's impossible to fake the moon landing given the number of people involved, only to have the characters covertly attempt to fake the moon landing on the same premises as the preparations for the real landing. These conveniences stretch credulity to near breaking point. Thankfully, cracks in the plot are paved over by the charismatic performances of the main cast. As a conwoman turned marketing specialist, Johansson does much of the heavy lifting here. She effortlessly exudes the confidence necessary for the role while displaying vulnerability in quieter moments. Another highlight is Jim Rash as the director of the fictional moon landing. Unapologetically camp, in lesser hands the performance could easily have become a reductive subject of laughter rather than the source of it. Rash injects much needed humour into the film, and the audience can laugh with him as he highlights the preposterous situation he finds himself in. Woody Harrelson's enigmatic presence is felt every time he steps on screen, but he is ultimately underutilised in the role. We get no real sense of who the human being behind the covert operative is. Rather than choosing between expanding on this character or cutting him altogether, the film opts for the worst of all worlds and uses him only when the script wants to remind the audience of the stakes. Lastly, Channing Tatum does an admirable job at portraying a man racked with guilt over a previous Apollo disaster. However, his climactic emotional outburst over this guilt is ridiculously contrived. In a better film, the script would encourage the performance rather than the performance covering for the script. In all, whatever the faults of this film, the actors are not to blame. They do what they can with what they are given, and the film is better for their presence. Perhaps Fly Me to the Moon's greatest achievement is its authentic setting. Props to the props department on this one, as the 1960s aesthetic is realistically rendered on screen. From the period accurate cars and clothes to the nostalgic needle drops of Etta James and Sam Cooke, you'll have no trouble believing in the world you're presented with. This is further compounded by the unobtrusive CGI that was no doubt employed liberally throughout. Further commendations go to the film's editing. No scene overstays its welcome, and the film moves along at a nice pace, ensuring viewers won't be bored. Where the film falters, however, is in its script. This is inarguably the weakest aspect of the film, and the problems begin with its central conceit. Halfway through the runtime, the protagonist's goal shifts from promoting NASA's mission to land a man on the moon to faking the moon landing. Either plot thread would make for a perfectly serviceable storyline, but pursuing both means neither is satisfactorily explored. Furthermore, Every moment of possible tension in the film is immediately resolved by an unflappable Johansson. The audience already knows the Apollo mission will succeed, yet the script doesn't even allow for fictional tension to build. This lack of tension means you are watching events unfold rather than fully investing in them, and hinders any attempts to elevate the film beyond a fun romp. There is also little humour to be derived in the script. Its attempts at comedy amount to jeering at the past for not being the present. If not for the performances of the cast, this would be an entirely humourless endeavour. In all, there is plenty to like about Fly Me to the Moon. The charismatic performances from the main cast compensate for many plot contrivances, and the faithfully rendered world of the 1960s does a lot of heavy lifting to distract from a weak script. Ultimately, it's an inoffensive film that probably won't leave a lasting impression, but is enjoyable enough to warrant a watch. If you're expecting a factual retelling of NASA's mission to put a man on the moon, your time is probably better spent with a documentary, because there is little fact to be found here. However, if you're looking for a pleasant experience with a sprinkling of laughs and a liberal dollop of unapologetic romance, then perhaps this film is for you. If you've seen Fly Me to the Moon, please comment below and let me know what you thought of the film. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to help this channel grow.